I'm curious. This is just a curious question.
Yes.
When you look at the NSC and, looking at the 2 years to come by,
Yes.
what's keeping you awake?
I would really want to see a situation where our portfolio of bonds and equities are equally balanced. When I took over, it was 50-50. Now it is about 65-35 in favor of fixed income securities vis-a-vis equities, and I'd like to see a burgeoning of the equities counter. What keeps me awake, of course, is also still working with government to see that we have a commodities exchange that is thriving. We've been having quite a few meetings to work on the execution of that. I'd also want to see a situation where we talk to retail investors in this country. We have the Dozika app that we've been collaborating with Safaricom. We need to really democratize the ownership of shares. The Kenya Kwanza administration has been very, very insistent on us taking a bottom-up approach. And one of the ways that we can do that is by educating the public about how to open CDS accounts and how to participate in trading on an active basis. And finally, of course, we would want to see, with the state-owned enterprise listings, companies that are better governed. If you look at companies like Kengen, for example, Kengen is a company that is predominantly government-owned.
You're right.
The governance of that company, its profitability, its track record, its innovation, in my opinion, are largely because it's a listed company that is de-risked and depoliticized. And can exist and fulfill the mandate on behalf of its shareholders, including the government.
Agreed.
Yes.
Let's talk about your key appointment. You have brought in a new captain as a chief executive in the house for the NSC, Frank Mwiti. And I just wanted to know your board expectations, because you're in charge of this, and what shareholders can see towards this transition.
Firstly, I want to congratulate Frank Mwiti, because the process that we ran was highly competitive. For a period of 6 months, we went on a search. We hired a professional consulting company, human resource headhunting company to lead that process. And we worked through 3 or 4 shortlists. And finally, we had, the penultimate moment when we had 6 candidates before us. And Frank Mwiti narrowly was the top of the pack. And the pedigree that I think we have been able to attract bodes well for the future of the exchange. One of the things that the board determined is that it cannot be business as usual. We would like to see an exchange with a person who's very strong in business development, who has multi-jurisdictional experience. And if you look at Frank Mwiti's CV, he comes from a very, very strong background in capital markets in the United Kingdom. He also has a very strong strategy and accounting background, and all those skill sets, I think, would be very useful. I mean, his immediate former role is as a strategy director for regional expansion for Ernst & Young. And, I'm glad that we were able to persuade him that though he had to make some sacrifices in terms of remuneration and others, he has a role now that he could really use to show Kenya the true value of his capabilities. Yes.
We'll really look forward and wish him well.
I am also really looking forward. We are actually going on a roadshow in the United Kingdom later this month, where we'll be talking to investors. And I'm sure that when he starts to substantively take over that position on May the 2nd, that we will hit the ground running. And I'm certain that within the next 6 months, we shall see significant changes. But having said that, I want to use this platform to really commend and congratulate Jeffrey Odundo, who had a sterling career run as the CEO of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And for the work that he did also for the African exchanges.
Sure enough. As we come to a close of the conversation, I'd like you to paint a picture of the outlook, what you see, especially this year, and any key market development expectations within this year and moving forward.
Okay, first of all, you know that the GDP is in growth. The projection is that we will have a 5.2% GDP growth this year. The GDP growth is not just limited to Kenya, but it's also a regional factor. There's a regional dynamic to it, and I am convinced that also with the good rains that we are experiencing in most parts of the country, that we are going to have a year when we don't have issues on food security, so there'll be less pressure on the dollar reserves that we have as a country. The reduction of fossil fuel prices globally. I mean, if we look last week, the cost of Marban oil reduced in all the major oil exporting countries, and that in itself will also lead to a reduction in consumer prices, and the inflationary trend will reduce. I would like to see a situation where enterprise can also be incentivized to create more employment. I think there's a big issue with many companies today because many organizations are still downscaling their employment, and we need to figure out ways in which the government can come up with an economic stimulus program to allow enterprise to continue employing as they still meet their tax burdens. But I do hope, and I am confident that this is a year that we will see the turn of the tide, and I'm really, really grateful for what the President and the leadership of Kenya Kwanza have done in turning things around, and we just need that now to trickle into people at the bottom of the pyramid also having money in their pockets.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Before I end, by the way, I saw you have some firm and you have some good coffee that you have there. Am I going to taste some today?
I will give you some in a moment. Yes, happy to do that. And I'd like to invite you there to see what we do.
Absolutely.
Yes,
we can make a date.
Yes, asante sana.
There you have it. That's the chairman, Kiprono Kitoni, very optimistic on all ends, including even the leadership and what is expected for you. And he says this, if you don't have a CBS account, it's your time now, you better. Thank you so much for your time. I leave you now with the market.
If you were to write an autobiography, what would the title be? If I was to write an autobiography, the title of the book would be In Business for Business. And the reason for that would be because I have been involved in business and I've also been in leadership for business. So I think my title would be In Business for Business. If I was to invite a historical figure to be the guest speaker at my company's event, who would you choose and why? I would choose Steve Jobs, for the simple reason that he was able to convert Apple and create a culture of excellence that no other corporate leader has ever done globally. And when I read his autobiography and looked at the things that he did to create that culture of excellence, I mean, I think that it bordered on, it bordered on the extreme. But he did succeed in creating products that have stood the test of time. In my opinion, the key factors contributing to the success of a Kenyan corporate leader is firstly appreciating good corporate governance. We need people who are ethical, people who will stand against corruption, and people who lead from the front. One such corporate leader would be, in my opinion, someone like the late Bob Collymore, who was a great friend of mine, who, despite not having the academic background that people thought was necessary to run that job, he fulfilled the criteria because he led, he inspired, and he was able to take Safaricom, from Michael Joseph's big shoes to a new realm of corporate success.